Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we want to integrate Microsoft Azure Active Directory as an external identity provider to our Keycloak server so that our users and groups from the Microsoft Azure Active Directory will be able to log into Keycloak and to be authenticated and to get their rights and rules and can have access to our applications. So let's do it. For this scenario, of course, we need a Keycloak server that is running. Here you see that it's my Keycloak server and it is running on my VirtualBox under HTTPS. So if you don't know how to install Keycloak server, you can go back and watch the videos about this topic. And on the other side, you see that here is the portal, the portal of Azure. And I'm logged in as this with this Microsoft account. So for logging to Azure portal, you need a Microsoft account. So if you don't have it, first you have to create it, and after that you can log into this portal. For this scenario, we have to do some settings on the Keycloak side and some settings on the Azure side. We go further one by one. We do the same. We do both of the settings, and after that we check if it works or not. And of course, it will be nice if you, with any likes, comments, or subscribe, let me know that the video is useful for you. So first we do the settings on the Keycloak side. Here is the Keycloak, and I have just created a new role. The role name is Azure. I don't have done anything else. The first step that we have to do is to go to the identity providers. I click on that, and after that we have to select an provider here. From the drop down menu, I select OpenID Connect because, as you know, Azure also provides an OpenID API to connect other applications. Here we have to set these settings here, and before starting, and as a tip, if you go to these question marks, you will get a brief explanation about each options. We go through, we talk about them, and I will try to make it easy. Here the first option is the alias option. I would prefer to change it. I say users from Azure, for example, from with a minus users from Azure. It is up to you what you select here. After that, a display name for this identity provider. If you want it, you can set it. If not, so not. I don't set it here. And next step is we have to copy this URL here. We need it for our Azure Active Directory. So just simply copy it. After setting the alias and after setting the display name, you make a copy of that. The next option is enable. Of course, this identity provider must be enabled. The next one is store token. So by default it's off. If you set on here, it means that the Keycloak server can also store these tokens that you get from the Azure Active Directory. So I don't want that these tokens will be stored in my Keycloak server side, so I set off here. And as you know, the rules and the rights of the users will be defined through these tokens. The next option is store tokens readable. So if you select on for that, it means that the users can are also able to read these tokens. Trust emails, I would select on for that, and it means that Keycloak server trusts simply the emails from the users from the Azure Active Directory without verifying them. so it is okay. I trust these emails. Account linking only. If you set on for that, the users cannot log in through this identity provider, and they just can only link to this provider. But we need that our user to be able to be logged in through this identity provider, so off is a good option, and the default option is also off for that. Hide a login page, it is off. If you select on, you cannot see this identity provider that you set here on the login page. Of course, we want to see that, so we set it as off. Und GUI order, you can set a number here for this identity provider. For example, you would say this identity provider must get the number 2 on the login page, or must get the number 1 on the login page. And if you don't set any number here, this identity provider does not get any number here, and I don't set also any number here. It is not so important for me. The next option is first login flow. So first login flow, this is a workflow that will be used after a user logs in for the first time from an external identity provider to Keycloak. And for that, we have some options here. We talk about each and every option here. You see that by default is first broker login is selected. If you select this option, the user can review his profile that is imported from the Active Directory at the time of after login. So I think it's a good option. The users will be able to see his profiles also. The first one is browser. It is also possible, as you know, to automatically to be automatically redirected to an identity provider instead of displaying the login form. So if for this scenario, we need the login form because we want that our users see here is the login form, and here they have to give their credentials, so we need it. So browser will not be a good option for us for this scenario. Direct grant, it's a way of client to access token on behalf of a users. Registration, if you select this option, the users are also able to register a new user. So I don't want it, I don't select it. Reset credentials. Suppose that a user has forgot his password. If you select this option, the user is also able to reset his password. If you want, you can select it. About this option we have talked. And Docker authentication, it's a kind of authentication for the users against the Docker repositories or Docker registries. And HTTP challenge will be used in case of authentication failure. So you can set an HTTP status, error now to be showed in the browser. So I would say for this scenario, first broker login is good. We can see the profile of our user after login to Keycloak. Post login flow, it's a workflow for the user after login to Keycloak, and here you see that the same option, so we don't talk about them. And synchronize mode. Synchronize mode defines a strategy to update the user's information from the identity provider. And for this option, we can select either import, legacy, or force. So if you select import, the data of the user will not be updated after they are imported. They just be imported. If you select legacy, Keycloak uses its current behavior for the updating of the user information. And if you select force, the information about the users will be updated after they are imported. So we select force, you can select import, it's also okay. We go further, and here we have the OpenID Connect configuration. So we don't talk about all of these options here, the video will be too long, but I just show you the most important one that we need for the for this identity provider. The first one is authorization URL. So now we go back to the portal of the Azure. Here, welcome to Azure. Here we have to find Azure Active Directory. If you don't have it here, in this search box, you can just type Azure Active Directory, press enter, and you can find it. So I have it, and here are the other services of the Microsoft that you see here. I click on Azure Active Directory. You see that Azure Active Directory, and here is the overview of that. I don't have done anything special here, but we have to do something here. So the first thing that we do in our Azure portal is that we have to register a new application, because here on the Keycloak side, we need client ID, we need client secret, and these informations we get after creating a new application. So for creating a new application, you go to the add option, and here we have the app registration. We click on that. Here we select a name for this application. We say Keycloak app, for example, or whatever you want. And this application is only for the accounts in our organizational directory. We have another options, for example, accounts in any organizational directory, or accounts in any organizational directory, and personal Microsoft accounts also, and personal Microsoft accounts only. So it is up to you where must be able to use this application in your organization. So I would say accounts in this organizational directory only. Here under the redirect URL, we have two options. We select a web, it will be a web application, and here as I said, we make a copy paste of this one more time, and this redirect URL we paste it here on our Microsoft Azure Active Directory. After that, we register our new application. So the application will be registered, display name is Keycloak app, and here we get the client ID. We go to the endpoints. I click on that. You see that another window will be open, and here we have some options. We just need the first one and the second one. So I make a copy of the first option here, and after that we go back to the Keycloak. Here, authorization URL. I paste that URL here. You see that here, authorization endpoint. So we copy this URL and we paste it in Keycloak at the authorization URL. We go further. We have the token URL also. We go back again to the Azure. Here we have the token endpoint. So we copy this link here. We go back again to Keycloak and we paste it here. We go further. We have the option client authentication. Under this authentication, we have some options. We want to use this authentication with the use of secret. So we select the first one. And client ID and client secret. We go back again to the Azure. I just close these endpoints. We don't need them more. Here you see that after creating the application, we get a client ID here. So we just simply copy it. We go back to Keycloak and it will be our client ID. I paste it here, and we need a client secret also. Again, we go back to the Azure. We don't have by default any client secret, and we have to create it. So for creating a client secret, you go to the certificates and secrets, click on it. Here we have to create a new client secret. Click on that. Description, a name for this client secret. We say Keycloak secret, for example, or whatever you want. And here you select the time period that this secret will be valid. By default, it is 6 months, but you can select 3 months, 12 months, and so on. So 6 months is okay. And after that, we click on Add. Now you see that we have a new client secret, and it is the Keycloak secret. And it is its value. We just copy it. We go back to Keycloak. And here under client secret, we paste it. Paste it here. Okay. Now we go further. It is also better if we define the default scopes here. So by default, it's OpenID. So OpenID, as I have done it. Profile, we add profile and email also, because we have to we want to have the profile of the users from the Azure Active Directory and the email also. And we go further, you can leave them as default. And after that, we save these settings. And here our provider is now saved. Now we go to the clients here. And we go to this console and we check what will be happened. Okay, after that I click on sign in. Here you see that we are under this role, our Azure role. We have two options for login. The first option is the local option. You can do it with the use of your local users in Keycloak. And the second one is our sign in with users from Azure. It means that with the use of this option, we can log in to Keycloak with the use of the users that we have in our Azure Active Directory. So we click on this option here. You see that we'll be redirected to the login of Microsoft, and here we have to request the permissions, and here is the email address. In this case, my Microsoft account. We say it's accepted. We accept that, and we go further. Now we are in Keycloak with the use of this user. So if I go to the personal info, you see that it is the email computeriseasy@yahoo.com. So first name and last name. It's a little bit funny, but they are the things that I have set for this user. For this user under the Azure portal. You see here, computer is easy, and here is the other information about that we have here. And account security, if I go to the sign in, you see password is not set up. So it means that this user uses its password from the Azure Active Directory and not its local password in Keycloak. And linked accounts, you see that it is linked to the user, to the Microsoft. And here, if we go back to the role and go to the users, view all user, you see the user is already imported to our Keycloak. Here is the email of the user, and here is the last name and the first name. As I said, the information that we have here. Okay, guys, that's it. So it means that our user can be logged in. Our user from the Microsoft Azure Active Directory can be logged into Keycloak and can be authenticated with the use of our Keycloak server. Now, you can give the users rules, and you can do the redirection and whatever you want for these users for your application in your organization. As I said, if you have any questions, you can write it down under the video. We will talk about that. And it is nice if you like or comments or subscribe my channel.